Well, the regular season is wrapped up in college football. We have conference championships this weekend, but the end of the season as a whole is near. As we enter this weekend's small slate, here's my top 25 rankings following the conclusion of the regular season. Before we get to today's video, make sure to smash that subscribe button and turn on those notifications if you're new to my channel. If you're watching this video, odds are that you love college football, and odds are you aren't subscribed to my channel. So make sure to subscribe to one of the best college football communities here on YouTube. I'll be posting college football videos every day to close out the season, so make sure to subscribe so you never miss a video. Also, make sure to drop a like on this video as well. It helps out with that YouTube algorithm and helps share the video with more college football fans. Plus, it only takes a second to do. Kicking off this video at number 1 is Michigan, who knocked off Ohio State by 22 points. In my opinion, this is the most impressive victory of the entire college football season. Michigan went on the road to the number 2 team in the country and beat them by 22 points. I have no problem if you think Georgia is the best team in college football, but based on this weekend's showing and the fact that Michigan is 12-0 on the season, I have them as my number 1 team. So right behind them at number 2 is Georgia, who handled business against Georgia Tech, winning by 23 points. For the second consecutive season, Georgia finishes the regular season undefeated as they get ready to face LSU in this weekend's SEC title game. Moving up to number 3 is TCU, who capped off their season with a 62-14 victory over Iowa State. Entering the game, Iowa State was considered to have one of the better defenses in the entire conference, while TCU dropped 62 points on them. The Horned Frogs finished their regular season 12-0, and they'll face Kansas State this weekend in the Big 12 title game. USC knocked off number 15 Notre Dame 38-27. Although Notre Dame was able to hang around, this was a game that the Trojans led the entire way. Caleb Williams added to his Heisman campaign as he had 250 yards of offense with 4 total touchdowns. If USC is able to beat Utah this weekend in the Pac-12 title game, they will reach their first ever college football playoff. Sliding to number 5 is where I have Ohio State. Although they lost this game by 22 points, this was still a game as they entered the fourth quarter. But the Wolverines outscored the Buckeyes 21-3 in the fourth quarter. Ohio State is still one of the better teams in all of college football, and they're still alive in the playoff hunt, but they're going to need major help this weekend. If USC loses, that potentially knocks them out, opening up a spot for the Buckeyes in the playoff. It also wouldn't hurt their chances if TCU were to lose as well. Climbing up to number 6 is Alabama, who knocked off Auburn 49-27. I guess you could say it's a disappointing season for Alabama, even though they finished the regular season 10-2. They won't be playing in the SEC title game this weekend, but there are people that still think they have an outside shot of reaching the college football playoff. A lot has to happen in order for that to happen, but I guess we'll just have to sit back and watch. Penn State finished their regular season with 10 wins as they defeated Michigan State by 20 points. Sean Clifford had only 5 incompletions for the game with 4 passing touchdowns. It sucks for Penn State that they're buried underneath Michigan and Ohio State. I mean, this is a team that's going to finish in the top 10 in the country and possibly win 11 games, but they're going to be 3rd in their own conference. Even though they didn't have Hendon Hooker, Tennessee dismantled Vanderbilt 56-0. Joe Milton was fine in replacement of Hooker, but it was the running game that completely dominated this game. As a team, the Vols rushed for 360 yards with 6 rushing touchdowns. 4 different players rushed for a touchdown, and 2 different players rushed in 2. Although it was a disappointing finish to the season for Tennessee, their 2022 season as a whole is one of the more surprising in all of college football this year. Kansas State finished off their season with a 20-point victory over Kansas. The Wildcats finished the season 9-3 and are one of the biggest surprises in the entire Big 12. After their solid 2022 season, they're going to face TCU in the Big 12 title game this weekend. Kansas State had a lead over TCU the last time they met, but TCU was able to come back and pull off the victory, so Kansas State gets their second shot at the Horned Frogs. Washington finishes their season 10-2 as they beat Washington State by 18 points. One of the better offenses in the country was great yet again as they scored 51 points and had 700 yards of total offense. Michael Penix Jr. threw for just under 500 yards with 3 passing touchdowns. Although they finished 10-2, Washington just missed out on the Pac-12 title game because of some crazy tiebreaker with Utah. The insane thing about Washington this season is the fact that one of their 2 losses came against Arizona State, one of the worst teams in the entire Pac-12. Had the Huskies just taken care of business against the Sun Devils, they'd be in the Pac-12 title game, and they'd likely be playing for a college football playoff spot. Clemson had their playoff hopes completely crushed as they lost at home to South Carolina by 1 point. DJ Uiagalelei had one of the worst games by a quarterback I've seen this season. He completed 8 of 29 passes for only 99 yards with a touchdown and an interception. Just a few weeks ago, it looked like Clemson was going to be in the driver's seat for a potential playoff spot, but they've lost 2 of their last 4 games and have fallen out of the playoff hunt. It looked like Oregon was on track to be playing in the Pac-12 title game, but they were outscored by 18 points in the fourth quarter and lost to Oregon State 38-34. Just like with Clemson, it looked like Oregon was in the driver's seat to be a potential playoff team just a few weeks ago, but some brutal losses to Washington and Oregon State not only knocked them out of the Pac-12 title game, but knocked them out of playoff contention as well. One of the more impressive teams in all of college football this season is Florida State, who beat Florida 45-38, moving the Seminoles to 9-3 on the season. Jordan Travis is one of the more underrated quarterbacks in all of college football, as he finished this game with 350 yards and 3 total touchdowns. It's been a weird season for Florida State, as they won 4 in a row, then lost 3 in a row, and then won 5 in a row. But even in their losses, they were close in all 3 games and probably could have finished the season with 10 or maybe 11 wins. I'm not going to say Florida State is back quite yet, but what a season for Mike Norvell and his program. Although LSU had 2 losses, they still had a shot of reaching the college football playoff as they get ready to face Georgia in the SEC title game. Well, they found the craziest way to eliminate themselves as they lost to Texas A&M by 15 points. Entering the game, Texas A&M had only 1 conference win in SEC play. Had they would have lost, they would have finished as the worst team in the entire SEC this season, and yet LSU somehow lost by 15 points. I mean, after losing this game, it almost seems like they don't deserve to play in the SEC title game this weekend. When talking about the most surprising teams in all of college football this season, Oregon State has to be near the top of your list. The Beavers knocked off the Ducks this weekend by 4 points, giving them 9 wins on the season. For the Beavers, this is the first time they've won 9 games in a season since 2012. If they're able to win their bowl game, that'll give them 10 wins for the first time since 2006. Utah capped off their season with a 42-point victory over Colorado. This was a game in which the Utes totaled nearly 700 yards of total offense, with 400 yards coming on the ground. Thanks to some crazy tiebreaker rules in the Pac-12, Utah is actually going to be playing in the Pac-12 championship game this weekend. Although their season suffered some really brutal losses, Utah has a chance to right the wrong and finish the season as the potential Pac-12 champion. UCLA was in a very close battle with Cal, but they ultimately pulled off the victory, winning by a touchdown. Dorian Thompson-Robinson capped his season with another solid performance as he totaled just under 300 yards with 3 touchdowns. Although they missed out on the Pac-12 title game and lost 2 of their last 3 games, this was still a fantastic season for the Bruins. This is a team I've talked about a lot in recent weeks, saying how hot and cold they are and how I just don't know how good of a team they are. Well, South Carolina is better than we all thought, as they knocked off Clemson on the road by 1 point. After upsetting Tennessee last weekend, the Gamecocks responded with another upset victory on the road at Clemson. Spencer Rattler had yet another solid performance as he totaled under 400 yards with 3 touchdowns for the game. There were a lot of surprises in college football this season, but one of the bigger surprises is South Carolina finishing with a better record in the SEC than Kentucky, Florida, and Arkansas. Tulane picked up yet another fantastic victory as they defeated Cincinnati by 3 points on the road. With the win, Tulane earned a spot in the American Conference title game this weekend, where they'll face UCF. This was actually a pretty historic win for Tulane over Cincinnati this weekend though. Listen to this crazy stat. The Green Wave defeated an AP-ranked opponent for the first time since October 6th of 1984. Entering this weekend's game, they had lost 61 consecutive games against an opponent that was ranked inside the top 25. To go one step further, Tulane's victory over Cincinnati was their first win as a ranked team against a ranked opponent since 1956. This has been quite the season for Tulane, as it's their first season reaching double-digit wins since 1998. It's also pretty crazy considering this was a team that was 2-10 last year. Texas capped off their season with the win against Baylor as they won 38-27. Bijan Robinson had yet another fantastic game as he rushed for 200 yards with 2 rushing touchdowns. Unfortunately for Texas, a few of their close losses in conference play prevented them from playing in the Big 12 championship this season. UTSA had yet another solid season this year as they defeated UTEP by 3 to give them their 10th win of the year. Frank Harris had 400 yards of offense with 3 touchdowns as he led UTSA to the close and thrilling win to cap off their season. The Roadrunners finished the season 10-2 and are undefeated in conference conference play. I know they don't get as much attention as some of the other teams, but UTSA has consistently been one of the better group of 5 teams over the last few years. Speaking of solid and underrated group of 5 teams, Troy capped off their season with a 30-point victory against Arkansas State, giving them their 10th win of the year. As a team, the Trojans rushed for about 300 yards with 5 rushing scores. Thanks to their head-to-head win against South Alabama earlier in the season, Troy is going to play Coastal Carolina in the Sun Belt Championship this weekend. Mississippi State won yet another thrilling Egg Bowl over Ole Miss as they defeated them by 2 points. This was a close back-and-forth game, but ultimately Mississippi State prevailed and pulled off the victory. It's been a rough finish to the season for North Carolina as they dropped their 2nd straight game, losing in double overtime to NC State. Just a few weeks ago, North Carolina had an outside shot of reaching the college football playoff, but by losing 2 straight games, their chances are completely shot. Still, even though they lost to NC State, the Tar Heels are going to play Clemson for the ACC title this weekend. Wrapping up the top 25 is Notre Dame, who lost on the road to USC by 11 points. Although they trailed the entire game, I will give credit to the Irish as they managed to just hang around the entire way. Things weren't looking good in the 4th quarter, but the Irish still only trailed by 10 points with over 11 minutes remaining, so they still had a shot to win the game. It was a very interesting year for Notre Dame after losing their first 2 games. They went on to win 8 of their next 9 games before losing to USC this weekend. Still, given the circumstances and considering they started the season 0-2, I guess finishing the regular season 8-4 is a pretty solid accomplishment. Well, there's my top 25 as the regular season comes to an end. Let me know in the comments what you think about the rankings. Was there a team I had ranked too high or a team that was ranked too low? Or was there a team not even on this list that should have been in here? Whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comment section down below. Before you leave, don't forget to smash that subscribe button and turn on those notifications if you're new to my channel. I'm posting college football videos every day to close out the season, so make sure to subscribe so you never miss a video. Also, make sure to drop a like on this video as well. It helps out with that confusing YouTube algorithm and helps share the video with more college football fans. Plus, it only takes a second to do. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.